Part 1: The Beginning of Nowhere. I grew up in a town so small, you could sneeze in your kitchen and your neighbor would bless you before you finished wiping your nose. Our house was the kind of place where dreams didn't come to visit. The paint peeled, the floor creaked, and the fridge always seemed to hum louder when there was less food inside. My dad was a man of few words, most of them angry. Mom did her best, but she was always tired, juggling 2 jobs and still managing to be the referee for my dad's temper. Our family dinners felt like landmines. One wrong word, and boom. Shouting, slammed doors, silence that lasted for days. I was the weird kid at school. Wore the same hoodie for a week. Brought sandwiches wrapped in last week's newspaper when we ran out of plastic bags. Friends? I had a few, or so I thought. But friendship in my world was just an arrangement that lasted until someone found someone cooler. At 16, I caught my best friend Tom stealing from my backpack the little cash I'd saved from mowing lawns. "Dude, I needed it more than you," he said. That was the first time I realized. Some people will stab you in the back, then ask why you're bleeding on their shoes. The fights at home got worse. My dad told me I'd never be anything, that I was just like him. And he didn't mean it as a compliment. So I left. No plan, no money, just a backpack, a cheap phone, and the conviction that anything, even sleeping on a bus station bench, was better than staying. Part 2: The Climb. The first years on my own were hungry. I washed dishes, hauled boxes, and sold coffee in a gas station where the coffee machine was older than I was. Every paycheck vanished into rent and instant noodles. But I kept learning. Late nights at the public library turned into free online courses. I taught myself coding, design, and marketing, piecing it together from scraps of Wi-Fi and borrowed books. The first time I landed a freelance job for $50, I felt like I'd won the lottery. The second time I realized I could make this work. Not everyone was cheering me on. Relatives said I should get a real job. My dad called me delusional. Mom was quietly supportive, slipping me $20 when she could. But she was stuck between loving me and keeping the peace at home. By 25, I had my own tiny apartment, no peeling paint, no slam doors. By 28, I'd built a small online business. 30, I had employees. I went from eating noodles 3 times a day to arguing with myself over which overpriced coffee machine to buy. But here's the thing no one tells you about success. It doesn't erase the scars. It just gives you better clothes to hide them under. I forgave my parents, at least I think I did. We talk now, carefully, like people handling fragile glass. And sometimes, late at night, I think about that kid with the newspaper wrap sandwich. I wish I could tell him, it's going to hurt. A lot. But one day you'll be okay. Not happy all the time. Not perfect. But okay. And maybe that's enough. Part 3: The Circle Bends Back. 10 years after I first tasted what I thought was making it, life looked comfortable. Too comfortable. I had a house with more rooms than I knew what to do with. A car that could start without me whispering a prayer. My name on a company door. People calling me sir, when I still felt like the broke kid with secondhand shoes. But success doesn't mean you've outrun the past. It just finds new ways to catch up. It started with Michael, a guy I'd hired 5 years earlier when my company was still small enough that I knew every client by name. He was charming, funny, and always had my back. Or so I thought. Then, one night, an email hit my inbox. An old client, someone I hadn't worked with in years, warning me, check your contracts. Michael's been selling your client list. At first, I didn't want to believe it. I told myself there was some misunderstanding. I'd been burned before, but not him. Not someone I'd treated like family. The investigation was ugly, and the truth was worse. He'd been building his own company on the side, using my resources, my contacts, even my staff, people I'd trained, who'd smiled at me in the morning while they planned their exit in the evening. It was Tom stealing from my backpack all over again, only now the backpack was worth millions. The betrayal hit hard, not because of the money, but because I'd let my guard down. I started to believe I was safe. For weeks, I felt that old heaviness. The same feeling I had at 16, standing in an empty kitchen with nothing but a stale loaf of bread. So this is it. The big fall. No, not again. I cleaned house, fired who I needed to fire, started rebuilding from the ground up again. I worked longer hours than I had in years, not because I needed the money, but because I needed to prove to myself that I could. And somewhere in that chaos, I learned something I wish I'd known sooner. Success isn't a destination. It's a fight you keep showing up for, even when you're tired, even when it feels pointless, even when the people you trusted most are the ones tearing you down. Now, at 45, I'm still standing. A little older, a little more cautious, a lot more aware that trust is the rarest currency. And if that broke kid with the newspaper wrap sandwich could see me now, he'd probably just shake his head and say, "Told you we